starts today, you fucking maggot motherfucker. Stop blaming everything on everybody. And fucking American society and the fucking iPhone. Fuck you and the fucking iPhone. Fuck you and fucking Facebook. Fuck you and social media. It's all about you, you dumb motherfucker. Get up, grab your balls. Hug your wife, kiss the kid. Pick up the fucking dog. Stop it. Stop it. It's not all Obama's fault. You don't want Ebola? Take your vitamin C, you dumb motherfucker. You don't want ISIS to fuck with you? Stay in New Jersey. But stop your fucking crying. You're a fucking American, you fucking douchebag. Start acting like it. That's it. You're a fucking American. Motherfucker.
And boom.
Here we are.
Here we are. Yep. We're recording.
Back again.
I think it's episode 154.
Man.
Got the dogs stepping on the microphones and the phones and the...
They're in a special mood right now.
They just want to be involved.
Yep.
I get it.
It's fun. So
here we are, back from our survival course last weekend.
That's right. We don't have Z with us for the Pokemon update. Sorry, anyone who's tuning in strictly for the Pokemon update.
We could always just have you guys record it later on and splice it in if we're that worried about it.
I'm not that worried about it. Right. So I just want to warn people, just let them know.
But, you want to keep anybody in suspense.
Yeah, in case they're just, your day's hinging on it, like, you're going to have to find something else for it to hinge on. Just want to be up front. But,
no misleading here on that Grumpy Guy.
Yes.
Podcast.
So, he's catching up on some sleep. Like I said, I had a sleepover, staying up to 1:30 at his grandma's house with his cousin. And,
Speaking, it's funny, on the way over here, speaking of sleep, I was thinking to myself, because normally I sleep for like 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it shakes out. I thought to myself, like, man, you know what? Tonight, I'm just going to try to sleep as much as I can. I'm going to go, because I like to wake up early. I just like to wake up early and start my day, man. Like, even, today, during the week, I wake up at 4 a.m. every day.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I woke up at 5. That's sleeping in for me. But, like, tomorrow, because my body kind of naturally wakes up around that time, 5-ish, almost every day, if I don't set the alarm for 4. I'm going to try to get to bed like as early as fucking possible tonight, like 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And just like, man,
see what happens.
See if I can sleep that long. I was listening to, actually just this week, Matt Frazier. I don't know if you know who he is. He's
CrossFit
a
guy?
5 times CrossFit Games champion. Like,
doesn't he kind of look like Nick Henney a little bit?
What's that?
Doesn't he look like Nick Henney a little bit?
He does. A little
cool.
bit. Like, I basically have like a man crush on that dude. Like, he's a fucking beast. And but he was on JRE this week.
Oh, okay.
And I was a little worried going into that interview because, let's be honest, like, Joe doesn't really know shit about working out.
No.
He's just a fucking knucklehead.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know anything about CrossFit.
Yeah.
I was like, how's this conversation going to go? Because Matt Frazier is like, he took second place for 2 years in a row. And then for the past 5 years, he's taken first place. Like, he's the most dominant CrossFit athlete there's ever been. It's like, man, how are these worlds going to collide? I was like, I could see Joe trying to tell him how to work out, and this just being a terrible fucking conversation. But no, it was really good. But I digress. He talked about when he was training, like in right in the middle of all his training, like he would try to sleep for like 10 hours a night.
Oh yeah.
Just because he's training so hard and how important that was. I was like, man. 10 hours of sleeping compared to my 6. I was like, there is a big gap there. I'm not saying me sleeping an extra 4 hours is going to turn me into Matt Frazier, unfortunately. But, and I'm not even saying that's physically possible on most days, just from the time I get home to work to the time I get up. But I was like, I was like, I got to experiment. I'm always experimenting with myself.
Yeah.
I got to see what happens if I maybe even get like 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah.
So my bedtime tonight's like 7. I'm not fucking around.
That isn't fucking around, man. Dude, that's gonna be like, at 5 o'clock's gonna be 10 hours in bed. So
I bet you is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna say 7. It'll probably be like 7:38. But I'll probably wake up at like fucking 2 in the morning, wide awake, like let's go.
Yeah, you just got to. Just fucking force yourself. That's quitter talk. If you get out of bed, man, it's quitting. You gotta get your time. It was one of the, I forget where I saw it, but somebody was doing a presentation on sleep, and there was a study that they did on some college basketball players, and they just had him. It was like, because when you say 10 hours of sleep, like, what does that mean exactly? Is that, 10 hours of actually being asleep?
Or
is that 10 hours in bed?
Yeah.
Is that, how are you defining that? And I would say most people define that as like time in bed. Like not a literal, like, I'm wearing a Fitbit or something that's literally counting, estimating the time that I'm asleep, and I am actually scoring, 10 hours on this metric. You know what I mean?
Okay, because that's how because I wear my Fitbit to bed. I don't wear a Fitbit every day, but I wear it to bed. Mm-hmm. And that's how I'm basing. Like I tell you that I get 5-6 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
I'm going off the data off of that.
Right.
Whether how accurate that is, who knows, but...
Yeah. See, but that's the thing, is that's the only way to tell, is if you're to say like, no, actual sleep time, we have to have something that's measuring actual sleep time. And so is that what are you talking about actual sleep time, or are you just talking about time in bed? And so the study looked at 9 hours time in bed, and it's like, no, you guys have to be in bed for 9 hours every night. And anyways, that was found that it increased performance and all these other things. So but I thought that was important, or interesting distinction, as far as like, all right, it's valuable even just, dude, if you're in bed for 9 hours. Like, even if you're not asleep the whole time or whatever, there's still benefit to just laying there for long periods of time. So, anyways, I don't think you have to score 10 hours on your Fitbit.
That'd be pretty tough.
That would be tough, yeah, because you're not going to score 100%, or 100% of the time that you're in bed, you're not going to be asleep. And so you gotta, man, even on like the best night, I'd say you'd have to account for like half an hour to an hour of
not sleeping,
falling asleep, waking up restless time, whatever.
Yeah, that's how it is for me. Generally, it falls somewhere between there, 30 to 60 minutes of not sleeping time. Not from the time I go to bed to the time I get out of bed. Yeah, I usually, if I'm laying in bed for 7 hours, there's usually, I log 5.5 to 6 hours of sleep, whatever it is. So,
yeah. So if you're gonna get 10, like you're gonna be looking at like 11 to 12 hours, man.
That's a bit much.
That's a bit much. So I think really, if you're trying to score that high sleep, like that's where naps would come in, because man, it's hard to bang out that much sleep in one stretch. So if you got 8 hours at night, and then you took a 2-hour nap during the day, which is what a lot of athletes do as well. Like I'd be, I'll almost guarantee you that he was taking naps, as to like how that fit into the whole thing. Whether that he was including that, or that was
taking naps in between training
fucking
sessions.
Guaranteed, man. Whether he was counting that towards his sleep total or not, like I'll guarantee you he was taking naps. And
yeah, I didn't even think about that. That would make sense, because if he's training a couple times a day. After morning training session, he gets home and eats, and then relax.
That's your job, man.
That was his job for 5 years.
Yeah. It's train and recover, and so like that's all you do, and it's everything that you taking naps, fucking eating perfectly, even when you're not, just like recovery, like all the stuff that goes into it, and but yeah, the naps are definitely. I'll guarantee you were part of it. But that's a more realistic way to accumulate like that much sleep, is through a long sleep at night and then a nap during the day, which is, man, what do they call that? Because that's the other thing. There was a thing about you'd wake up in the middle of the night, like at 2, and then you would like do shit.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
There
was a word, because there was an old timey thing they used to do.
Yeah.
God, well, there was a word for it. I remember a term. I can't remember what it is right now.
Right. Yeah. But what was funny is that I was talking to probably the same guy that was doing the presentation that I was referencing. But he's some sort of sleep expert. And I asked him about that, and I said, what about this? And I used the term, which basically means like, going to sleep, waking up, and then going back to sleep. And, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, it's taking a nap. I'm like, oh. That is. If you, taking a nap is another form of this, the 2 sleeps, double sleep pattern. And so, like, humans, probably are set up to be optimized through through that. So whether you're doing it at night or whether you're doing that through the day, but yeah. So that would be. I'll be interested to see what you're. I mean, because obviously it's something you won't be able to sustain not throughout the whole week, but having one day a week where you dedicate, like, no, I'm going to make sure that at least one day a week my body is going to get all the sleep that it, needs to help it recover or whatever. So
we'll see.
Yeah. You might not feel as addicted to Kratom.
Possible. It is possible.
Maybe.
So I did order a new strain of Kratom called Trainwreck.
I was there when you came across it. I haven't ordered it yet. Yeah. So
$60 for a kilo. With tax and shipping the whole 9 yards, it's like $69.
Yeah.
For 2.2 pounds of Kratom.
That's fucking crazy, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. If you know you're gonna invest in a bunch of Kratom.
That'll last quite a while.
Yeah.
2 pounds of Kratom for myself.
Yeah, that's like, it's good shit. It's cheap. Fucking. So, anyways, we're fans.
It's not like Adderall. I won't fail a drug test. I work for it.
No. Yeah, exactly. I know. It's that weird that article that I'd seen that I've told you about a couple of times where like whoever was requesting that Kratom be put on the banned substance list had actually withdrawn their request, but like. The government, like nobody just said anything and just continued to let everybody assume that it was still on this like suspected list. But now it seems like people are like, no, you can just take it. Because a couple of years ago, like I forget, when did you start? When did you get
during my 2 years ago. 2 years ago. My knee surgery.
Yeah, like you couldn't say that it was for human consumption. It was for making incense. Remember the shit that we bought, like specifically said not for human consumption, and the websites were all funny and would refer to like the effects that you would get, but be referring to it as like the aromas from the Kratom produces energetic highs. And
I forgot, but now that's completely changed. Now there's just like that. So that Kratom, I just ordered it from a company called Yo Kratom.
Yeah,
and they're advertising on podcasts and shit.
Yeah,
it's.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie though. It was a few weeks back. I got popped for a random drug test at work, and there was a little bit of me. I was like, I wonder if Kratom's gonna pop up on this thing. I wonder if it's gonna pop up as some sort of like methamphetamine or something. No news is good news. This was like a month ago, and I never heard anything. I mean, I wasn't really concerned about it, but there was a little bit of doubt in my mind. Why I was sitting in the waiting room to go pee in this cup, I was like, will Kratom make me fail my drug test? I was searching it. But I think we're okay.
Yeah.
I still have a job, so.
Yeah, I don't think it's there yet, but yeah, hopefully it's not like eating poppy seed muffins or whatever and then peeing hot for opium or whatever is that the shit? Is that what this
poppy
happens?
Seeds and heroin, yeah. I don't know. That might just be some old fucking bullshit. I don't know.
Maybe, man. I remember my stepdad, though. He probably still does it because he works in the airline industry as an inspector for Westar. And so, man, he can't even, there can't be a sniff of anything on his drug test, like when you're working in that industry. So I remember as a kid, him being like, you can't have poppy seed muffins or bagels or whatever because of that. So he would that's how I knew about it because it was a thing. Like if you got an everything bagel, it was like exactly got poppy seeds on it, can't eat it. So apparently he believes it enough to actually follow it.
I see. I think that's one of those things that was common before the internet.
Yeah.
And then once the internet,
this was pre-internet.
Yeah, and
for
then
sure.
Once you can search things and really find good information, you're like, okay. There's a lot of shit we believed in like that as a kid.
Yeah.
That we've come to find out is like, no, that's not how this works at all.
It is true. So, but anyway, speaking of things that do work and fucking work all the time, we went to our Fieldcraft survival skills workshop last weekend, and we haven't actually talked since then. I mean, we drove back and we talked about a bunch of shit. You dropped some Bitcoin education on me for a while, which was enlightening. But so yeah, man, what'd you think of the overall?
I think it was a great experience. it showed me all the skills I do not have to survive in the wilderness.
Yeah.
I failed the fire making test.
Me too. That still bugs me.
I know it does. I'm gonna practice. In my backyard, I got a burn barrel and I got a little concrete slab out there. So
yeah.
Some of the skills they showed you how to just with your knife, not even really proper tools, just a knife and one match, or your ferro rod and your knife, and just see if you can get it done. Because in theory, it sounds easy.
Fuck yeah!
But it's a time consuming thing. It all depends on how big your attention span is. Because if you because the test they gave us was you had one little log and your knife.
Like a quarter of a log.
A quarter of a log. A log that was split, just a tiny a piece, and you had to use your knife and get that down into really small, like kindling, and then step it up a little bit bigger, and then build a little fire pile, and then use your they gave us a match.
Match.
But we did a test with our ferro rod, to make sure we could use that.
Well, they gave us tinder for that.
They gave us tinder for that.
We was able to, you broke yours.
I broke my ferro rod. I've learned that using your knife and your ferro rod, you don't have to press it like a gorilla. A little bit of finesse goes a long ways.
So, I know it was funny, man. All of a sudden, you're like, I broke my rod. It's like, what? Luckily, everybody had fucking extra rods. And, but yeah, we had to do it right-handed, left-handed, and then one-handed. Which was good, and I was able to get all that going. Yep. But then they gave us the one stick or
the one stick challenge basically.
One stick fire. Yeah, that's what. Or one stick fire, and you get one match. One of those sweet ones, the storm matches or whatever the fuck, the ones you can like dunk in water and they'll keep burning. So they're gonna burn, but that was. I tried to fucking start a fire Sunday, even using. Newspaper with the ferro rod. Man, I couldn't get it to catch and go.
Well, starting newspaper with a ferro rod is hard.
Yeah, I figured.
If a ferro rod works best if you have one of those little pieces of like the tinder.
Yeah.
Or like some dried up grass or leaves. Getting newspaper to start with a ferro rod. That's a tall task.
Again, man, but it's good to fucking.
It's good to know that
ahead of time.
Because if you're riding on that in your survival situation, you're gonna be sorely disappointed.
Yes,
that's gonna be. That's not gonna play. That's not gonna pan out.
I heard Kevin, one of the guys running the course, like he was talking to someone and he said that really like the point of the one stick fire challenge is to show people the importance of carrying some tinder. Like, that you need, if you don't have some pre-made tinder that's going to burn.
That's going to ignite quickly.
Yeah, it's going to ignite quickly and burn for a bit, long enough to get some of the other stuff going, that it's hard, because you having to break down wood to the point that it can act as that tinder does, and kindling and all that it's a lot more effort and not as reliable.
Yeah, just think about like if you were stranded in the mountains, freezing your fucking ass off, and then you didn't have any tinder, and you're trying to break wet wood down to small enough pieces to get it started with a ferro rod or even a lighter.
Yeah.
Good fucking luck, man.
Good luck, man.
Your hands are freezing. Like you lose a lot of dexterity when your hands get cold. Like it gets miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going in prepared with a lighter and matches and tinder, like you're gonna set yourself up for success, man.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking. If you think about how different, because we both got the tinder lit with the ferro rod.
Yeah.
And so like the different experience and like lighting that, and we're sitting there doing it like one-handed, you know what I mean? Like, oh, look at me, I can do it one-handed. And then it comes to like trying to light a fire without that, we even had a match, and like, oh shit, this is harder. And of course everyone else in the class who we probably collectively had the least experience with doing that shit of anyone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In that class.
Yeah.
And except for maybe our buddy, the computer nerd guy that was sitting next to us.
Yeah.
But anyways, he had the benefit of watching everyone else because we were the first ones to go. I just went first,
because I remember Kevin and Austin asked me, they're like, "You ready to give it a shot?" I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's try it." They're like, that doesn't instill us with a lot of confidence. I was like, "Hey, man, I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
Like, if I fail, I fail at it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see what works. Like, how much time did I have to put into this? I broke it up pretty small."
Yeah.
I
was confused. I didn't break it down into. I didn't get tender going. Like
my attention span was Wayne. I was like, okay, this is fucking small enough, man. Like, let's do this.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much time we were supposed to invest. I was like, okay, fuck it.
Yeah. I was a little confused with the instructions, and then they were like, oh, you want to try it? Oh, that's looking great. And so I'm thinking like, oh, I'm looking good. And then everyone else who was successful had actually taken and shaved it. Had gotten some shavings to start it.
I seen one guy cheated and took some dry grass.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Hey,
it's like
there.
They had, so I didn't break it down to that level because that wasn't necessarily, again, I have excuses. I have to give myself an excuse for failure. It's the only way that I can live with myself. So, but anyways, but once, I saw what other people were doing, I was like, oh, okay. But man, my big takeaway from that is like lighting a fire is not as easy as it sounds. Like,
it's a skill set.
It's a skill. Yeah. Like, I remember at my old house, we had a fireplace, and like trying to light a fire in that thing, the first time I did it was a miserable failure. Like, I had to figure out like, oh yeah, you gotta, start with the paper, and then you get this size, and then this size, and like a lot of stuff they were talking about, like if you've ever actually like just lit a fire in a fireplace without using one of those like Duraflame logs or something like that, but actually like, old school, like, okay, there's the stages of the fire. Like, you instinctively have to figure out, like, you got to start with something that is going to burn quickly and easily, and then you get something that's going to burn
slightly bigger, it's going to last a little longer.
Just a little bit longer, and then you get something just a little bit longer. Yeah, there's this process, and then you get up to the logs that
will burn for a while.
Yeah, and so that was, I saw that, and I was like, okay, once I realized, like, oh, this is like the fireplace thing, but I didn't have newspaper and a match, or, lighter, like I did at home, so I failed the fucking one-stick test. And, yeah, like I said, like, trying to get that ferro rod, I was like, okay, that's good to know. Like, so I went and put tinder. That was one of the things that came in my battle box was these, they're like pieces of paper, they're covered in wax. And so you got to scrape the wax off, so it keeps it waterproof or whatever. But, I mean, they're super thin, so you can fold them up. And so I stuffed one in my hip bag.
Wait, I remember that little survival tin I made you?
Yep.
There's a little thing in there.
Yeah,
that thing lights and burns good, dude.
Yeah.
I haven't tried lighting that with a ferro rod yet. I'll have to try that. I've lit it with, you put a lighter to it. I've used them out in my burn barrel because I bought a little tub of them.
Yeah.
I want to see how they work, and they work really good. I mean, you can literally fill that thing in a cup of water and light it on top of the water, and it'll light and stay burning. So it works nice.
Awesome.
And here is Z.
Yes.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, dude? All right. So, anybody that tuned out at the beginning because they thought that my prediction that we weren't going to have a Pokemon update
is missing
out. So, if you stuck with us, it's Z is here. He's awake and he's got a Pokemon to share with us. So, what's up, buddy?
Hi.
Hey. So, what you got for us?
Dreadnought.
Ooh. Sweet.
What's he do?
His attacks are Vice Bite, which does 60 plus damage, and Jaw Lock, which does 130 damage. It has 130 hit points, and it's a water type. It evolves from Choodle, which is its first stage.
Choodle?
It's rare. And the little thing on the bottom says, This Pokemon rapidly extends its retractable neck to sink its sharp teeth, to sink its sharp fangs into distant enemies and take them down.
Dang. Sounds brutal. He looks like a Triceratops and a turtle with a mushroom head.
You said a turtle a marshmallow head with a turtle with a marshmallow head mixed with the rhino.
Yep, that's what it looks like to me. It's cool. I like it. So, yeah, you had a sleepover with your Nana. Stayed up all super late.
What'd you do while you were staying up so late?
listen to stories and talk.
Nice.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. Anything else? You had your 2 days off school this week.
Mm-hmm.
So, we didn't really...
What was the 2 days off school for?
I don't know.
Teacher's
Do we ever
service day
know?
or some shit?
Yeah, I mean, spring break's coming up. So, it was funny. Yeah, you know, was it yesterday? Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? It was the 1 year anniversary of sports, like the NBA.
Shutting down.
And that was like the first domino that fell, and then like, yeah, and then they released them for spring break, which is like a week away, or like next week they'll go, and then the week after that's the start of spring break, and then they just never
Didn't go back.
They didn't go back after spring break. So yeah, it was a year ago.
It's crazy to think about.
Like, whoa, dude, what's happening? What's gonna happen the next day? And
It's been a year.
yeah, yep, yeah. That was where I got addicted to checking my fucking news feed. I had never checked my Google news feed or any news feed first thing in the morning. But man, at that point, like, you kind of needed to know
What was going on?
what was going on. Like, dude, we're running out of toilet paper. That's fucking crazy.
But as we discussed in our previous episode, may not be a necessary thing.
No, man. Toilet paper is not... You'll notice at that wilderness survival thing, toilet paper was not super high on the priority list. Those things like fire and
Yeah,
knife
but
skills
if you're out in
and-
the wilderness, having access to a bidet is going to be tough in a survival situation.
Well,
So you're going to need some toilet paper.
Yeah,
You're going to be uncomfortable if you don't.
I'm sure you can figure something out. You'd be surprised how adaptable you might be. It's not going to last forever. What are you going to do? Anyways. What do you think, Z? Should we start packing toilet paper in our bug out bags?
Yes.
I have it in my bug out bag, but like
have-
it should be part of my everyday carry.
If you got to carry toilet paper with you on an everyday basis, you may need to rethink some diet choices.
I think
Okay.
that's what I think.
All
All
right.
right, man. Cool, buddy. Well, anything else? No?
I forget if any other cool things happened.
Well,
Seems like you're still trying to wake up a bit, buddy.
yeah, if you remember,
Yeah, I slept almost 12 hours.
we were just talking about the value of long sleep, so...
Good job. Do you feel good and rested?
I feel like I need to sleep some more.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you when the podcast is over.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. See ya. Yeah, I think he pretty much woke up and realized we were in here.
Yeah, he's like, oh man,
I gotta
get in there.
He got some new Pokemon cards at Nana's as well, so he had some new ones that he was ready. I could see him kind of like, there's another one that he likes. I could see him kind of like going to it, seeing if he could figure out how to sneak it in. Like, I got another one here. Just like, no. It's the Pokemon update, which is one at a time. So I don't want to ruin this,
The system.
ruin it. You don't want to run out of Pokemon.
I don't think that's the thing. There seems to be a lot of those things.
There's a lot of them. They
Seems
come
to-
out
seems to
pretty
be
regularly with
a
new
lot.
ones. So they've got the system figured out. People are engaged, buying stuff. So so fire skills. It's that was the toughest one for sure.
That was tough. We learned some, it sounds kind of funny, but we learned some knife skills and whittling.
Yeah.
Of just different techniques and how to like cut certain types of notches in sticks, and
That was super interesting.
and what they would be beneficial for. It sounds goofy, but useful.
Yeah.
And I mean, once you do it, like, okay, this makes perfect sense. If you were to make a steak, and then you want a little notch in there so your rope hooks on there to stake your tarp down or something, like, it makes perfect sense. Like, without practicing it or seeing it,
Right.
you could probably kind of hack your way through it, but just a quick little skill like that, like creating a stop line and then shaving it to that stop line, and a little stop line and shaving it to that stop line, like, oh man, I can make a nice little notch. My paracord would hook on there good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That was that was fun. I'm glad nobody drew first blood. That was
Nope, no one cut themselves.
That was good. I went through fucking 3 knives So I had to borrow one from Nate, and I had to buy one because I realized that my knives were lacking. I didn't have good.
It was, it's kind of, I feel bad a little bit because I didn't even think about this because like I carry that Ghost Strike knife, that little thing. I only carry that for like last ditch emergency because it's a shitty knife.
Yeah.
The handle fucking sucks. Like it's bullshit. It's stupid. And I knew that because
before you put an edge on it, it's not super sharp.
I use knives a lot.
Yeah.
And so I came with my nice Moro knife with a nice handle.
Yeah.
Because like if you're gonna be doing anything worthwhile out in wilderness, you want a good beefy knife.
Yeah.
And I kind of took that for granted. I should have I didn't say anything to you because I didn't realize that was the only
Well, no, I had that Gear Aid one, but it had the serrations.
Yeah, and I think serrations fucking suck. I don't like serrations on a knife.
Yeah,
I don't. There's some value to them, but
I mean, but they're not. It's they're a hindrance for what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to do whittling like we were doing, and again, if you got the skills and all you have is a serrated knife,
you can get it done.
You can get it done. But me having no skills and needing some help, so I'm sitting there trying to do the first couple cuts with this because it was the serrations were right where you use to whittle, like that first inch or two off the handle, and I was like, okay, this isn't gonna work. And so then I go to that Ghost Strike knife. I was like, well, this fucking isn't gonna work. And then I was just gonna go buy one of those damn things, and I ended up buying. But then Nate was like, no, here, take my fucking $350 knife. And I was like, Jesus, dude, all right. I felt nervous using a knife of that quality and expense. Like, I didn't want to be responsible for something happening to it.
I would definitely break something like that.
Oh man, yeah. Well, I mean, it was such a high quality knife.
It'd be tough to break.
Yeah. But I could see myself like dropping it and fucking the tip, like chipping or something or whatever. Over, so, but yeah, no, once I got a good knife, then it was like, oh, okay. Oh, thank sense. God, man. I actually went back to some of the other cuts and like cleaned them up a little bit just because my OCD was like, this is fucking. I knew it wasn't good when I did it, but getting a good knife, having a good sharp knife with just a good fixed blade, regular edged knife is super important for your wilderness survival package. So that was one I learned as well and quickly rectified that problem, that hole in my game.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of serrated knives. I think besides cutting rope, above and beyond that, man, like on your most use cases, like just a straight edge knife.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I didn't buy that thing. It came in the battle box, and I mean, it had it. It was sharp as fuck, and so they're like, "Oh, you need a small fixed blade knife," and that was really the only instruction. And so I'm like, well, I have a small fixed blade knife. I don't know what I'm using it for, so I figured it'd be as good as anything. But yeah, I mentioned that too, and I wasn't trying to make an excuse, but I would, because you have to expect like people are beginners, like they're coming here because they don't know necessarily a lot of this stuff, and so they're going to need every advantage that they can get, which includes not having a serrated blade on their knife. Might be good to mention just so people don't make
show up with it.
Yeah. Like I'd rather, because that was cool, but that was the thing is like I would have rather used my knife. Like it was cool to use Nate's knife, and then I went and bought one. But that's why I came home and I suffered through doing one of those tri-sticks on the freaking pine tree branch that I got, just sap everywhere. But I wanted to use that knife because I was like, I want to try this thing. I actually want to use the knife that I have, that's my knife. And so, showing up and borrowing somebody's knife to do it is fine, but
it's not using your own knife.
Yeah, using your own knife is, I think, an important part of the experience in a course like that. Like, what is the equipment that you have? And then if you don't have the right equipment, well, let's remedy that with our fucking pro shop over here. So
my pro shop was dope.
It was dope, man. Yeah, I had a bunch of cool shit. I know I was like I don't need a $200 knife, but those knives were so nice. I was like, nah. I know.
We each bought a Moro knife with a ferro rod and the handle.
Yeah.
For what, $30, $35 or something?
$35.
That's a hell of a knife, man.
Yeah.
Good quality. And yeah, for $35, you can't go wrong.
No, I know. They're like sunglasses. Like the $200 ones are, they're nice, but you're going to lose them. You're going to fucking scratch them. Something's going to happen to them. So, if you're not really willing to deal with that reality, then you can't buy stuff like that. And I'm just not really willing to deal with that reality right now. I don't have that enough. I don't have that kind of disposable income to be like, oh, I lost a $200 knife. I'd be fucking pissed. So
yeah. I don't get it. I don't like. For like that Moro knife is a good high quality knife.
Yeah.
For $35, and you go get one of these custom made knives that are $300. If you were to blindfold somebody and give them that knife and say, hey, do this, and they're not going to be able to tell the difference. So is it just a status thing? Is it be like, look, I have a fucking special $300 knife? You know what I mean? Like, what is the purpose?
I don't know.
Explain that to me then.
Yeah.
What is the fucking purpose of that?
I would suspect on some level it becomes like holsters, right? Like as the more you get into it, the more you're like, oh, I like a knife that feels like this, or that's weighted like this, or that has like this shape of blade. And so like, just like anything else, you can become a fucking knife nerd and really dig into it, and then that kind of stuff has more value. There is the person who's just like, it is a little bit of a status symbol where you're like, oh man, yeah, I've got the $300 tactical knife, but I think that a lot of people that buy that shit probably are, they're like knife nerds, man, yeah, and it's just they're like, man, I can tell the difference, even if they can't. It's like being a fucking wine nerd.
You're probably right. And I don't care enough to even fucking go down that road.
Yeah.
Like, I want something that's going to take a beating. It doesn't have to be flashy. I don't have to have anybody look and say, man, look at that guy's knife. That's cool.
Yeah.
I want something that I can just beat the fuck out of. It's going to hold up. I can sharpen it, and I can use it again.
Yeah.
And that's it. Those are my requirements.
Yeah.
And
well, it's like that with guns.
Yeah.
Then people, what was that? The fucking
Gucci Glocks.
Yeah. Well, that 1911 that Austin had. What does that thing cost? Would be like $3,800 retail.
Yeah.
But, that's if you are, man, your from the trigger pull to, where you want your grip, extra grip shit to like what sight, all of it down. And you're to that level. Like, I once wrote an article for mountain biking it was called You're Just Not That Advanced. And it was basically saying, like, look, man, a lot of this stuff, like most of you people are not advanced enough to be able to appreciate the differences. So you need to focus on like the shit that really matters, right? Like if you're a pro rider, you can benefit from these things that might give you this like 0.01% extra, or like you ride at such a high level and you're so tuned in with your body that you can appreciate the difference between like 25 psi and 30 psi in your tires. Right, your average rider is just not that advanced. They just have no ability to do that. But so if you ride at that level, well then you're like, man, I got to get this bike that does this and this and this, and that's how you end up with these $10,000 bikes. And it makes sense for that kind of rider. But the vast majority of riders are not that advanced. The vast majority of people are just not that advanced. But they're buying these $10,000 bikes because they're status symbols, is what it is. And you may see that in every fucking industry, and with the guns, the knives, all of it. There are nerds that have taken their knowledge and their skill set to the point where they can appreciate the difference in these things. Most of us, we're not that advanced.
No.
So just give us a fucking $50 knife.
Yep.
And, we're going to do just as fine. We can't really tell the difference between that and a more expensive one. But, if you got some money to burn, and if you get Bitcoin rich and you got like millions of dollars, like you're gonna tell me that you would really like if you found a knife, man, I like this knife, I like the way it feels, and like $200 to you is like $20 at this point,
right? It's it's relative.
Yeah, if you found a $20 knife that you really liked, you're like, oh, this thing fucking is awesome, you throw down $20 no problem,
right?
So it's all relative,
yeah,
for sure. But I think that's
relative, and if you nerd out on something,
yeah. But it's but you do get those people that just like the status symbol. They get in and they're like, all right, they're just, what's the coolest stuff? What does everybody have? I got to get that. And then that's the fastest way to fast track your way to being
the inner circle,
being in the inner circle. And yeah, you see that everywhere, man. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm the same. I agree. I got that that Gerber, was it the fastball knife? You know, that was like $100 folder, and I like that knife. But even that, I'm like, you know, I probably shouldn't have spent $100 on a knife. Like, the time's gonna come when I'm gonna lose it. Like, I've already mentally prepared myself for that day. Like, something's gonna happen to it, and so now I see the value in having like multiple less expensive knives that function, and for all intents and purposes, I can't tell the difference. I mean, dude, knives are so fucking badass. You can get the knife that Shiloh, I gave to Shiloh, that came in that battle box. The retail on it was like $12, $13.
That's crazy.
And you know, it's a nice folding knife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, that's so yeah, knife technology has come so far. It's one of those things that almost makes no sense for your average guy to spend that much money, because you don't have to get like a really nice knife.
Like the everyday folder I carry, that Kershaw, you know, retails for $80-$90.
Yeah.
I got a factory blemished off eBay for like half price, for like $40 or something.
Yeah.
Like, insane. Like,
yeah.
And then if I was to lose this or jack it up because I'm trying to use it as a pry bar or something, like, okay, yeah, that was a dumb move, but I'm out $40.
Yeah.
Get another one.
Nah. Yeah. So knives are important. It's when Keely and I were talking yesterday, because we were going on a hike, and she's asking, like, hey, when we're going out on a hike, you know, should I have, you know, my stuff, because you have your stuff, and blah blah blah. And I was like, what I told her is like, well, that's the wrong question. Like, what it is like, what do you have on you regardless of the situation? It doesn't matter what anyone else has. Like, what do you have? You have a blade.
You don't want to you don't want to outsource your well-being to somebody else.
Right. Even if it's like the odds of you actually needing and it's just because that's just what you do. It's not because this person does or doesn't have anything. Mm-hmm. Like, that's totally irrelevant. Like, you know, now if I'm bringing my gun, you know, does she need to bring her taser and all that stuff? Like, you know, probably not. You know, like, there are some...
But you could answer that question the exact same way.
You can, right? But I would say that there's definitely a point in your EDC where it does start to be affected a little bit by the situation. By what does someone else in the group have? Mm-hmm. And am I going to double up on that as well?
Right.
And so, and there's certain things that are just like, oh yeah, because that's just what I do. I always have a knife. I always have a fucking light source, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it has nothing to do with anything else. But then as I move up the food chain of what I actually bring along, you know, and again, I can always fall back on that thing. Like, I should just bring everything all the time, regardless of anything. But I think you'd agree, like, there's...
Yeah, you're like a layered system.
Yes.
You know, like because you have EDC stuff that's going to go in your pockets every day.
Right.
And then your next tier in that system is things that are going to go in like your everyday carry, like sling bag, or if you fanny pack, whatever, a bag you take daily. And then you have gear that you're going to put into your backpack. You know, so you have like a layered system. And it kind of falls into that same equation, you know. Like, so basically it boils down to like, okay, your EDC. And then if you start getting into like going on a hike, okay, you got a layered system there, but then you talk to your hiking partners. Like, okay, like I have this and this. You know, and you guys carry this. You know, then you can you know, parse it out. Yeah,
exactly.
You know, so yeah, it's
So, but that was my point was like, there's a mindset though where you're like, well, this is just what I have.
Yep.
And it doesn't really matter what the situation is. I just always have this, and then I may find out what else is involved and what else I need to bring. And that's where, you know, for her, it's a little different for women, I think, because, you know, we got pockets. Like, you know, everything that we wear is baggy enough to be able to stash some stuff in your pockets. But that's where, like, you know, a Patagonia sling bag, you know, she has one of those, and, you know, we just need to make it easy for her though. Like, instead of her having to transfer things from here to here to here, it's like we were talking about, it's like, dude, knives are super cheap. Just go buy an inexpensive knife, it goes in there. Buy a relatively inexpensive flashlight, it just goes in there. So you have stuff that goes in that bag, and then that bag just goes with you.
Yep. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
There's no thought that goes into it.
Yeah.
So if you have a couple different bags or whatever it is around the house for different occasions.
Yep.
And so you got to double up on the gear sometimes, buy a couple headlamps, buy a couple different knives. But so that way there's no thought that goes into it. You have a little first aid kit that goes in this one, that goes in this one. Because if you set up the system where you're transferring shit,
yeah,
you're going to get sick of that and you're not going to do it.
Yep.
To where, okay, this is my hiking bag. Oh, this is my going to the grocery store bag. You have this separated like that. Because, your hiking bag is going to have a few more different things.
Yeah.
And going to the grocery store, do you need to take fire starter going to the grocery store? And kindling.
Right.
So your everyday bag that just goes to the store with you is going to have a few different things. But you have it set up like that. That's the jam. That way there's no thought that goes into it. It's just like you do your thought ahead of time, and then when it's time to go out the door, just like, boom, oh, this is this occasion, this is this occasion.
Just planning to be prepared.
Yep.
That's it. And I think that's kind of like the important message, period. But like one of my, the take homes from that, or takeaways from that course was, in that community, a lot of times like the firearms and stuff really take this is what I'm doing to take control of my self-defense and stuff like that. But it's like, all right, but what else are you doing to plug all these other holes? Because the odds of you needing a gun versus the odds of you needing a flashlight, right? And it's like, do you have a flashlight? Well, why not? Like, why do you not carry? And I was guilty of this, man. I didn't, carry a lot of this shit for a long time, and you manage to get by. You figure out how to get by. It's we don't live in a world where the consequences of not having these things is death. Mm-hmm. Right? There was a time when it was.
So you get soft.
You get soft. Exactly. But when you start carrying this stuff, like it does. We were talking. I think you mentioned it. You said something like, "Dude, being prepared feels cool," or something like that.
It's like a nice warm blanket.
It is,
because you know that this situation could go quite a way sideways, and you would still be okay.
Yes.
It gives you a greater margin for error.
Yeah.
Most people walk around to where if anything goes slightly outside of what they're expected, they're fucked.
Yeah.
They're just plain and simple, man. They don't have a good, if they get a flat tire, out where there's no cell phone service, and they don't have a good pair of warm gloves to change your tire, and a good jacket to put on, things like you could turn that experience into a miserable fucking experience.
Yeah. Or it can turn into a survival situation where it didn't need to.
Where it didn't need to. Where if you had a rain jacket, a good pair of work gloves, and a headlamp, and you get a fucking flat tire out on a mountain road to where there's no cell phone signal and AAA ain't coming, boom, you can rectify the situation in 20 minutes. To where if you didn't have a few simple things,
you're out there with your cell phone.
That could be
freezing.
What are you doing? If you just would have put a little bit of thought into this, your life is just, you're back on the road, no problem. If not, it could turn into a life-threatening situation. And I guess we live in the mountains, so you take these. You got to think about these things a little more. And my job is always for the past 10 years of my life is put me into these type of situations to where I got to think about these things because we're out there. I'm out there in some of these locations to where there ain't nobody around. And I'm on my own to get by, and so you got to think about that a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But if you don't put yourself in the situations, you get soft. You're like, what are the odds?
But you should. But I think you've mentioned before, you're way more prepared than compared to most of your fellow drivers.
Most of my coworkers.
And they're in the same position, whether they recognize it or not. They've been able to get by, but so you do need to think about it, but unfortunately most people don't.
Nope. They outsource their safety and well-being to everybody else.
Yep. And the thing too, I realized the other day is that learning these skills is important because it's not just you, right? You can be a force multiplier. I like these fucking terms from the fucking tactical world and all this shit, right? So me teaching Z, maybe I never need this skill. Right? Maybe I never have to use any of these skills that I learned, but I'm teaching him Z. Well, maybe Z needs it. Mm-hmm. And if I hadn't learned it and taught him, he wouldn't have had it. Or maybe he teaches someone who ends up needing it. And so, you learn these skills for yourself, but also because, you having the ability to do it and then pass it on to someone else, and they might use it. And so if you never learned it, like, they would fucking die. So it's not just for you. Like, you learning these things and you passing them on is important because, like I said, you're multiplying the force of what you're learning.
Society,
our society. Exactly. And on some level, like, this is something that goes back to the dawn of time. Like, fucking teaching people how to start fire goes back to Prometheus. Mm-hmm. And, like, teaching people how to, use knives to create things out of sticks and wood, and then, or edged implements, and then using fucking cordage and stuff. Like, these are things that, man, they go back and someone taught Kevin, right? And someone taught his dad, and someone taught his grandpa, and someone taught that guy, and like there's a fucking line back. And if we stop learning these things and passing them on because we just assume that, like, they're not necessary or someone else is going to do it, like, dude, that line could be broken. Like, if Kevin hadn't had become a wilderness survival guy and pass that shit on to the people that he has, like, that line that would have died with him. And it's like, man, we kind of owe it to the people that came before us and learn these lessons the fucking hard way, to learn them and pass them on and keep the fucking knowledge going down the line. Because at the end of the day, this is the shit that really matters. This is the shit that's going to keep us alive when the thin veil of society gets pulled down, like, which it can in like a survival situation. Like you're saying, you get fucking flat tire on a mountain road, and okay, how are you going to handle this situation? And so, like, just that thin veil of society, like, oh, I'm always going to have cell phone service, I'm always going to have someone to come rescue me and help me. That's fucking pretend, man. I'm glad it fucking works most of the time, but it's pretend. Mm-hmm. And that shit gets pulled down, and it's like, all right, do you have the skills to fucking survive it? And so, yeah, we owe it to ourselves and the fucking future generations to keep that chain going, because people learn fucking those lessons the hard way. And but anyways, yeah, I just thought that was kind of
it is when you think
cool.
When you think about that on the bigger, like, the grand scale of things, the bigger picture of things.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah,
it is really important. But the way the world is nowadays, like, the importance of it gets diminished, and then it just gets forgotten.
Yeah, we're like, oh, what are you, paranoid?
Yeah, then you get put into this weird prepper.
Yeah.
Category, like, oh, this fucking guy.
Yeah, that's where, like, that my insight, like, man, I may not need it, but I may teach it to someone else who needs it. So it's like, it kind of takes it away from, like, well, it's not the prepper, because the prepper is usually worried about themselves only,
right? Or
their family unit. You know what I mean? Like, they're preparing for themselves to have to do these things, and that's where things can get a little weird. But it's like, man, I'm learning this because, like, man, I hope I never need it, but I may teach it to someone who needs it. And if I hadn't learned it,
that person might not have learned it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it may not have anything to do with me. So, yeah, it's a little bit of prepper, but it's also a little bit of, like, man, I want to make sure that I'm passing on skills that may help other people, because people need these skills. Mm-hmm. Like, the odds are low, but someone still at some point needs these skills. Every day, someone needs these skills to survive. And, hopefully they have them.
Better to have them than not.
Yeah.
It's like you say about carrying a tourniquet. Like, yeah, some people look at throwing a tourniquet in your everyday carry bag as a little excessive. But guess what? If you need a current tourniquet, you really need a tourniquet.
Yeah.
There's no, like, oh, I could kind of use a tourniquet. I could you know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty fucking black and white situation.
Let me run home. I got one in there.
No, like, it's not that big of a deal to carry one, and the odds of you ever needing one are pretty fucking slim. But what if?
Yeah.
What if? And for a $25 purchase, you throw it in your bag, you forget about it, and it's there. It's there, and you come up on a car wreck, and you can help somebody. You could that little thing could save somebody's life in a really easy measure. Like, you pull over and there happens to be a car wreck, and someone's bleeding the fuck out of their arm, and instead of just trying to, like, put pressure on it, boom, throw that thing up on their arm and just tighten it up. Boom, that simple action could just save somebody's life.
Yeah.
Just like that.
That was one of the things that I was really surprised to learn, is that again, I'm not trying to like underscore or overstate anything, but like it's not super complicated to be able to help someone who really needs help in a medical situation.
Mm-mm.
Like if they're bleeding out or they have a fucking puncture, in their chest cavity, or there's just some really basic things that you can do to kind of just help stabilize the situation a little bit. Like you're not a fucking trauma surgeon.
No, man,
like,
PA gets overcomplicated and intimidating.
Yeah.
Dude, it boils down to stop the bleeding and make sure they're breathing. Yeah, really it. Like if they have an obstructed airway,
really great modern day tools to help with that.
Yeah, those two, and then you step it down from there. Okay, try to keep them warm. So on and so forth. Blah blah blah. But it's really easy. It's not complicated.
No, man. Carrying a tourniquet and some fucking quick clot or something like that is not difficult. It's not expensive. Doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's really crazy. Like, yeah, man. If someone really needed help, that you would be able to at least help them until real help can get there.
Until trained professionals.
Yeah, that's the thing, man, and that, like I said, I was surprised to kind of learn that. Like I really was like expecting to get into it and have all this like complicated stuff, and it's like, no, man. Once you understand a few basic principles of what to do, it's just a matter of fucking doing it if called upon. So
just being ready, willing, and able to do it.
Yeah, and part of being able is having the tools available. So that's why, man, I love that ankle IFAK. I wear that thing all the fucking time, man. So yeah, I love that. I'm looking at. I want to get a little multi-tool to shove in there. Like I use that thing. I've put a solar blanket in there.
Nice.
So I've expanded on it a little bit from the original configuration.
Nice.
But yeah, I love that thing because I can throw it on my ankle. And so if I'm wearing jeans or something, it's pretty easy. And then if, for whatever reason, I'm not wearing something that's easy to throw on my ankle, I can throw it in one of those Patagonia bags.
And you still got all your stuff there.
Yep, right there. And it folds up real tight into a tight little bundle when I'm not wearing it. So it's easy to just throw in there. So yeah, that thing's fucking awesome, man. I love that thing. But I carry that shit. Like there's points because I have an IFAK in my truck, a dedicated IFAK. I've basically put an IFAK in my my hip pouch, my Dakine hip pouch that I take on hikes, and then sometimes I'll have my ankle IFAK in the car as well. So I've got 3 IFAKs in my car at one time a lot of times, and it's just, dude, you can't, having it staged and stashed and available, because like you said, when you need it, you need it. Mm-hmm. So having one tourniquet, in your med kit at home is great. That's a fucking great start. But man, pay another $25 and throw one in your truck or your bag, and just to have something available. And I was glad to hear him say those RATS tourniquets are legit.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
they work just fine.
Yeah,
it's again those nerds.
Yeah,
it's arguing over how much better does a $300 knife work over $50 knife.
Yeah,
you're getting into the nerd world. Like
right.
It's good. It's gonna reduce the flow of blood. It's gonna work. It's gonna work pretty fucking good.
Yeah, well, they're because I've got several of those, but they're significantly smaller and easier to stash. But it's almost no excuse to not just throw one of those in.
Good, and you got kids and pets. They're good for that.
Yep. Yeah, man. Being prepared.
And speaking of that, let's call that good.
Cool. Sounds good, man.
Go train.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
See ya.